Even though I tried something and they would give some information, I said, they keep asking me about the numbers. I said, I can't bring it.
You said you were?
No, I said, but
Jack, you want to say hi?
but I mean, yeah, I know you told me about $40 some odd dollars. But today,
Number 6. Zero is not better. Aria. Lily,
but they put on $20. It's email.
Yep.
Check your email. I have but
sorry.
when I went to I didn't understand what this is. So I paid for that flat rate, which I didn't then they asked me if
I'm not sure. I can ask Jay.
This is just great.
Mommy said to
What year, Jay? 1897.
Wow.
Wow.
That's expensive.
yeah.
1897. It's well over. I saw your name, Jason. Oh, I know.
This over there.
I don't know. No. Yeah. That's nice. Nice. What's fancy?
Adonai roi lo echsar ino teshayar bitzeni al mei menuchot yenaleni nafshi yeshover nafshi yeshover Yanacheni v'magalei tzedek leman shemo Amekiyelech v'geitz al mavet Lo yirara Ki ata imadi Shivetecha Ushantecha Shivetecha Umishanetecha Ema yenachamuni Taroch lefana shulchan, taroch תערוך לפניי שולחן נגד צורריי. תשענת בשמן ראשי, תשענת בשמן ראשי, תשענת בשמן ראשי, עושי רוויה. אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Giving me repose in green pastures, leading me beside still waters, restoring my soul, guiding me in straight paths, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my foes. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. The psalmist speaks of the valley of the shadow of death, a dark place, a seemingly lonely place. But to you, to Mort's family, on behalf of everyone here today, we pledge our support to you in the days and years ahead as you travel this path of mourning. Though it's dark now, we will open back up to brighter days and light and happiness and joy and good memories and comfort, family and community. For those of you that might not know, I'm Rabbi Solomon Grunwald. This is Eitan Cantor, our music director, and it is our honor to accompany you today in this ceremony. The Torah speaks of the creation of human beings and says that we are created out of the dust of the earth, and God breathes into our nostrils the breath of life. That means that we are all of this earth, made of the same stuff as the universe. Our bodies are destined to return to the earth from where they came. And there's a part of us that comes from God that we call our soul, our spirit, our neshama. That part lives on and returns to its source, to God who gave it. Today we gather to lovingly return Mort Braver's body to the earth. It is a sign of deep respect and love in our tradition to care for the dead. And we gather to lovingly accompany Mort's neshama, his soul, on its journey as we lift up his memory today with words and prayers. We'll hear from a few people this morning. I'd like to start by just sharing some of Mort's story. Morton Braver was born on October 16th, 1943 in Brooklyn, New York, to David and Miriam Braver. He was the youngest of 3 children. When he was young, his parents moved the family to the Catskills in upstate New York. Growing up near the famous summer resorts of the Borscht Belt, Mort worked his way through Fairleigh Dickinson University, where he studied business. He also did postgraduate work at Baruch College before going to work in commercial banking. It was on September 24th, 1968, after attending prayer services for the second day of Rosh Hashanah, that Mort met a young woman named Sarah Shapiro, who was in town for the holidays visiting cousins. Mort and Sarah hit it off and discovered they had a lot in common. Sarah was impressed with his maturity, and Mort was smitten. He went home and told his friends that he had met the woman he would marry. For their first date, Mort took Sarah to Radio City Music Hall that same week. And the very next day, he took her to a basketball game at Madison Square Garden. He was determined to sweep her off her feet. They dated for about a year and were married in Brooklyn on November 8th, 1969. Mort could be quite charming and charismatic. He loved music and had a nice voice, and he would serenade Sarah when they were dating. Sarah's father had died when she was young, and her mother was left a widow. When Sarah brought Mort home to meet her mother, he brought lightness and humor into the home, into a home that had been darkened by a cloud of grief. Mort got along nicely with Sarah's mom, something for which she is very grateful, especially later in life when she would live with them for several years. Despite his short stature, Mort was to Sarah a larger-than-life figure. Even though his personality could be hard at times, Sarah remained a dedicated and supported spouse throughout their marriage. Morty loved his children, Jason and Rachel. But like a lot of men of his generation, Mort was not a hands-on parent. He was proud to say that he never changed a diaper in his life. When the kids were young, Mort was recruited by a bank to move to Anaheim, California. He worked long days and commuted long distances, often coming home well after dinner time. Mort kept busy. As a young man, he enjoyed sports and his hobbies. He played baseball with the synagogue men's club. He loved ping pong, and for many years, he played racquetball daily before going to work. He loved theater and music, something he shared with his daughter, Rachel. She once arranged for her friend Sean to make a professional recording of Mort singing his favorite songs, including 2 duets with Rachel. Mort loved being Jewish. He was the president of 2 different congregations in Orange County. He was proud to have started the bingo fundraiser at his synagogue, and he was dedicated to his friends at synagogues. Mort was a news junkie, watching CNN constantly when he was home. He also loved watching Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. He performed in community theater, and even in his later years, he held on to a dream of being a singer or a cantor. When Rabbi Shulman and Eitan visited him last week, he lit up when Eitan sang Kol Nidre for him. And though he did not spend a lot of time at home, Mort loved his family and provided for their needs. He made a point of attending the kids' performances and sporting competitions. Later, he would proudly attend Rachel's work events and fundraisers. He was supportive of Sarah when she wanted to pursue her dream of being a special ed teacher. And when Rachel met Andy, Mort loved the fact that she had brought home a nice Jewish boy. He got along well with Andy and enjoyed his relationship with his son-in-law. In his mid-50s, Mort developed heart disease and kidney disease, but he was a stubborn patient who didn't like to follow doctor's orders about diet and exercise. Somehow, though, he managed to live quite a long life despite those choices. After Sarah had 2 strokes, Rachel moved her out to Denver, while Mort and Jason stayed back in California for a time, eventually joining Sarah in Colorado in January of 2020, just before the pandemic started. With several health issues between them and Jason's care needs, Life for the Bravers in Denver has not been easy. Nonetheless, Mort loved being a Zadie to Arya and Jack, and they enjoyed their weekly visits after religious school. Mort will be missed by his friends and his colleagues for his charm and wit. He will be remembered by his family and those who loved him. May his memory be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. May he rest in peace, and let us say amen. And I would like to call forward Michael Stoyer to offer some words.
Some of this you heard before, but worth repeating. Good morning. I'm Morty's cousin Michael. Our mothers were sisters. We grew up in New York, together with my wife Sharon, sitting over there, Morty's cousin Ida, and her husband Murray. We came here to mourn the loss of our dear cousin and cherished friend. I'm honored to be able to say a few words in remembrance. As the rabbi said, Morty was born in Brooklyn, and a few months later, I was born in the Bronx. But shortly after we were born, Morty's parents, Dave and Miriam Braver, bought some property in the Catskill Mountains, just northwest of New York City, in an area that we call the Borscht Belt, because of the large number of Jews who spent their summers in this bucolic area to escape the heat of the city. The Bravers used their land to create a bungalow colony in this beautiful, shaded, protected area on the crest of a hill in Mountaindale, New York. In the early years, they also raised chickens on the property. Although my family and Ida's family rented bungalows and visited only for the summer, Morty, his parents, and his older brother Lenny lived there year-round, together with their dogs. The ones I remember were Busty and Laddie, not very friendly dogs. I thought of Morty as my country cousin, but he also seemed like a slightly older brother, since I came from a family with two sisters. But Morty was no country bumpkin. Anyone who ever played Monopoly or Scrabble with him can attest to his sharp mind and attention to details. As the rabbi said, he was also a natural athlete. And we often joked about how he, not I, had inherited the athletic genes of the family. Those of you who knew Morty are probably aware of his beautiful singing voice, something he inherited from his father, not from our side of the family. He loved to chant religious prayers, and later he appeared in local theater productions. As Morty got a little older back there in Mountaindale, our time together in the summer was limited because he became a busboy and later head waiter at the fabulous Linden Lawn Hotel, a modest establishment just down the hill from Braver's bungalows. But it seemed like an elegant place when compared to our small cabins. I still remember Morty's cheerful voice over the loudspeaker at the Linden Lawn Hotel every morning proclaiming, "Everybody up, rise and shine, it's breakfast time." He later worked at some of the bigger hotels in the Catskills. After graduating from Fallsburg High School in New York's Orange County Community College in Middletown, he got his bachelor's degree at Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. And during that period, as the rabbi said, over 50 years ago, he met his beloved wife, Sarah, and their romance did blossom. Morty soon got a job working as a loan officer at one of the large New York banks, and he and Sarah moved to Long Island. Fortunately, not far from Ida and me and our families. By the way, Morty used to joke that when he told his father of his high position as a bank officer, his father poo-pooed it, assuming he was only a teller. It was there on Long Island that we were able to strengthen our family ties and rejoice in the births of their beloved children, Jason and Rachel. Sadly for us, though, Morty was soon recruited by that large California bank, and he heeded the call to move with his family to Anaheim, home of Walt Disney. So Morty tried earnestly to get his cousins to head west with him. None of us did so. We managed to stay in close contact and even visited several times over the years. Sharon and I succeeded in schlepping our children by car from New York on one of those cross-country trips. We always took pleasure in the warmth shared by Morty, Sarah, and their family every time we visited. We also managed to see them during the occasional trips back to New York. Morty continued to be successful in California, and he spent many days and nights supporting his synagogue. Whenever we had contact with him, he demonstrated his intelligence, his sense of humor, and his joyous, tuneful voice. A few years ago, as the rabbi said, Andy and his children moved here to Colorado. Morty, Sarah, and their son Jason settled here as well. They were happy to be reunited as a family and looked after by their saintly children, Rachel and Andy. It's sad to gather here today to join in this occasion, but it is also joyful to pay homage to the life of this remarkable and cheerful man, whom we remember fondly as a beloved husband, a devoted father, an extraordinary cousin, and a dear friend. Morty, we'll miss you.
We now invite Andy Markowitz to offer some news.
Okay. Okay, so a couple weeks ago, I was sitting out on the front porch with kids after dinner. I was sitting and they were making a mess with Play-Doh on the concrete, but regardless, Aria says, "Daddy, when's Mommy coming home?" I replied, "I don't know. She's at Bubby and Zadie's looking after some stuff. So she probably won't be home until after dinner or until after you guys go to bed." Aria then jumped into a line of questioning that I wasn't quite expecting, but I entertained nevertheless. She said, "How long have you known Zadie? Like 20 years? I chuckled. "No, sweet. Mommy and I have only been married for 9 years, and we were together for about a year prior. I met Zadie in 2012. So, 10 years they were together." Now, anybody that's spent more than a minute with my personable and outgoing daughter knows that one question and a single answer are never going to be the end of a conversation. She then asked, "Daddy, are you friends with Zadie?" Now, at first, I didn't quite know how to respond because, quite honestly, it never occurred to me to think about the relationship I had with Morty in those terms. Of course, I did answer in the affirmative, and I didn't ponder the question too long because, like a typical 8-year-old, I've got less than a 50-50 shot of Aria listening to what I have to say anyway. However, her question was an important one. And since that conversation, I've taken a little time to examine the qualities possessed by my present set of friends and how much an overlap there is with the personality traits I've seen in Morty over the last 10 years. For starters, I naturally gravitate towards gregarious, positive, and friendly people. Life is way too short to hang out with a bunch of Debbie Downers and negative Nancy's. I certainly didn't have to worry about that. Now, to be fair, I don't have a complete data set, but I think in the last 10 years, give or take, I can count in one hand the number of times I saw Morty in a rotten mood. Even in the last few months, when it was obvious his health was deteriorating, there was a positivity there, which was hard to ignore. We'd come to visit on Sundays, and he'd say, "Look, I've got no pain in my foot, and I can do a little dance." On the inside, I'm screaming, "Okay, settle down there, Fred Astaire. You just had major surgery." But I'd also be lying if I said his little pseudo performance didn't make me crack a smile. Okay, so positivity and friendliness is easy, right? Who doesn't want to attract that in their life, right? But something else my close friends have in common is they're hardworking and good providers for their family. Find me after the service and we can have a discussion on the merits of being a workaholic. It's not odd, I'm not oblivious to the fact there are costs to taking that kind of approach to life. However, my reality is that this is a trait worthy of respect. And it's why my friends are some of the hardest working people I know. Like my previous example, I don't have complete data. I didn't meet Morty until he officially retired from full-time work. But I've heard stories. 34 banks in 43 years, a 4-hour daily commute from Anaheim to Encino. For those of you not familiar with the magic of rush hour on Interstate 5, I assure you it's as bad as it seems. However, that's what Morty did. He took his obligation to provide for his family very seriously. It's that obligation. If I would have met Morty as a 30-something dad in early 80s Orange County, we probably would have become fast friends. Now, besides somebody that's hardworking and upbeat, another adjective that comes to mind when I form a mental image of my closest friends is generous. This was never more true than when my own father passed several years ago, as with the events of the last several days. To a person, immediately following the condolences were questions of, "You're going to need chairs for people to sit. When can I bring them over?" Or, "Would you like tuna salad or egg salad or both?" The outpouring of generosity from our friends has been very heartening. And it's the same level of generosity I saw in Morty time and time again. Generally speaking, all you'd have to do is ask, and Morty would give you a shirt off his back, almost literally. For example, this fancy stripe number I'm wearing here under my suit coat is actually one of Morty's shirts. Several years back, when I was regularly traveling to California for work, and Morty and Sarah still lived there, I would stay with them, to check in and stuff. Anyway, on one trip, I ran into a bit of a problem. Previously unscheduled customer meeting, nothing fancier than travel clothes to wear, and no time for a detour for a wardrobe upgrade. I asked Morty if I could borrow a button-down shirt. Yeah, no problem, I'm retired. The pants don't have a drawstring, and the top doesn't have a zipper on the hood, but I probably won't be wearing it anytime soon. Problem solved. I mean, I could rattle off a number of examples, both funny and heartfelt, but you get the point. By my way of thinking, generosity is the core of true friendship, and Morty Braver possessed that in spades. So I'll bring this little spiel full circle. And address Aria's original question to me about wisdom reasoning behind. Yes, Daddy was friends with Ray. Rest in peace, my friend. You will be missed.
We invite Eric Feldman, Morty's nephew. Hi, for those who don't know me, my name is Eric. I'm Morty's nephew, son of his late brother, Leonard. Before I have words to say from my brother and myself, I have a message to pass along from Morty's kindergarten friend, Sheldon Fox. My name is Sheldon Fox, and I'm humbled to be asked to speak at Morty's funeral from afar. We have been lifelong friends as we met in kindergarten in 1948. Morty shared the same first name as my father. He learned that on my dad's dental chair, my father was Morty's first dentist. Morty was recognized in elementary school as having a great voice. He never stopped singing. Although small in size, Morty was an excellent athlete in sports. He had a gift of good hands, which he used to his advantage. Morty was academically very smart, and he graduated with a New York State Regents diploma. He graduated from Fairleigh Dickinson College, and he entered the business world. He had a most successful banking career. Morty met the love of his life, Sarah, and they have two wonderful children and loving grandchildren. Morty was extremely proud of his Jewish roots and his Catskill Mountain upbringing. As I said earlier, we stayed in touch over the years. 3 years ago, my wife Susie and I made a West Coast trip to see him. He couldn't wait to take us to Catella's Bakery in Delhi. Great Jewish food. I will close my remarks by saying Morty was a dear friend and a mensch. Now, some of my earliest memories of going to New York City in the Long Island area were visiting Morty, Sarah, Jason, and Rachel in the mid-70s. We always looked forward to visits with them. They were always very hospitable, and they had a lovely home that generously opened up to us. Morty was always good to my brothers and I, and he was always well respected. Both Morty and Sarah were both a major help to me in the year 2000. I was living in Las Vegas, and well, life in Las Vegas for me at the time was not great. So in August of 2000, I asked Morty and Sarah if I could stay with him for a while until I got on my feet. At the time, Morty was a branch manager at a Washington Mutual Bank in North LA, and he helped me get a job as a bank teller at another Washington Mutual branch in Buena Vista. I eventually worked my way up to merchant bank teller and almost won a position opening new accounts, but I got beat out by an 18-year-old kid who attended the manager's church. Morty and Sarah also lent me tuition I needed to attend bartending school, which certainly helped with sustaining myself living in Southern California at that time.
They also arranged to let me rent a room out of my cousin Jason's condominium. It was a nice place to live in a nice and safe neighborhood. I eventually relocated to Ohio and became a commercial truck driver. A couple years later, I relocated and made a permanent residence for myself in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Everything that Morty and Sarah did for me was instrumental in me being where I'm at today. I'm in my 20th year of trucking and living a stable, comfortable life in Pennsylvania with my girlfriend, Beverly. Thank you, Morty and Sarah. Much love to you both. Rest in peace, Uncle Morty. I hope you're in heaven singing your heart out. And I have a few words I need to say for my brother Kenneth, who couldn't attend today. I have great memories of Uncle Morty. He always wanted to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and we shared that love of sports. He was like a father to me and my wife, Kim. He told me he once wanted to be a cantor and sing a beautiful song to me. I will miss that. We're relieved his pain is over. We will miss him and hold him in our hearts, and we send you our love. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today to honor our dad. As I look out this morning, I see smiles and I see tears. But they're not tears of sadness as we sit here and collectively remember Morty. They're tears of joy intermingled with nostalgic smiles for the way he left a permanent mark on our minds, our hearts, and our souls. I see my dad's grandchildren, Aria and Jack, remembering Sundays with Beatty, our afternoon trips to local restaurants, specifically to Zeke's, we loved, and Bagel Deli. Of course, he didn't eat a pastrami sandwich he didn't like either. Sharing stories of our week, and of course, my dad sharing the sugary treats he always had in his pocket. I see my brother Jason remembering how we used to patiently await Dad's return home from work so we could play red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. Dad was there at every band concert watching my brother shine with his trumpet solos. He attended our Hebrew school activities with such pride that we shared his love of Judaism. Bowling was a big thing with the Bravers, and we were there every weekend. We always looked forward to it, but my dad was always ready to plan the next trip. The houseboating vacation in Lake Mead or the trip to Jamaica that I had the opportunity to go with my parents. Friends and family, you have your own private memories of my dad, not as a father, but as a fun-loving young kid who grew up again in that Borscht Belt days of upstate New York, the region that came to be called the Jewish Alps, or more often, simply the mountains. A celebration of the golden age of the Catskills resort era when millions of urban dwellers sought refuge in the mountains of upstate New York, leaving deep imprints on the mainstream American culture, from stand-up comedy to comfort food. My dad was there through it all, and we enjoyed hearing all of his tales of him being raised at the Braver Bungalow Colony, and later as a teen working as a busboy at the Nevele Hotel, where he then developed his deep passion for music and for singing. I'll always remember my dad singing those Eddie Fisher classics with his pure tenor voice. I would wake up on Sunday mornings to hear him belting out, "I'm yours," or "Oh my papa." Every Sunday morning he would sing that. At the time, I wished he was singing songs by New Kids on the Block, but I later developed an appreciation for those musical choices. The first time my husband Andy met my dad was at his one-man show, The Life of Eddie Fisher, where I had the pleasure of joining my dad in one of our daddy-daughter duets. My most cherished memory was traveling to Israel on a birthright program when I was a young adult. I was hosted by a local family for Shabbat lunch and instantly felt comfortable hearing their thick New York accents. After the prayers over the food, I asked, "What part of New York were you from?" And the wife responded, "Oh, we're from upstate. You wouldn't know." I quickly replied, "My dad was from upstate, a small town called Mountaindale. Would you happen to know Morton Braver?" Tears of joy instantly streamed down her face. Morty's your father? It turns out my dad and her brother were best friends growing up. And when dad went to work at the Neville, her brother went on to study at the yeshiva in the city, and they had lost touch with each other. I couldn't wait to share the news with my dad, and boy, did it bring him joy. Now my mom. My mother has the most treasured memories of any of us after 54 years of marriage. None of us knew or loved my dad as she did. And so today we give more of these memories to your heart for you to hold in your heart. I know my dad is smiling at all of us and wishing us well. And of course, he's serenading each and every one of us here. We'll always keep your songs in our heart, Dad. Rest well. So Eitan asked me for a few of my dad's favorites, and we came up with one from Les Mis called Bring Him Home.
If you haven't heard Mort's CD, it's really a treat. So, recommend it to all. Hear my prayer in my need. You have always been there. He is young, he's afraid. Let him rest, heaven bless. Bring him home, bring him home, bring him home. He's like the sun I might have known. If God had granted me a son, the summers die one by one. How soon they fly on and on, and I am old, and you gone. Bring him the keys, bring him joy. He is young, he is only a boy. You can take, you can give. Let him be, let him live. If I die, let me die. Let him live. Bring him home, bring him home, bring him home.
Jewish tradition, the burial of our loved ones is called Chesed Shelamet, highest form of kindness that we can show another person, because it is a kindness for which we can never be thanked or repaid. And it is a mitzvah, a sacred obligation on family and indeed on our whole community to see to the burial of our dead. And so in a moment, we'll invite family forward to place earth in the grave, and we'll invite all of the guests here who are able and wish to participate in the mitzvah to help to put some earth in the grave. Just a few words of customs. It's customary to place the shovel, to place at least 3 shovelfuls of earth in the grave. Some people have a custom of using the back of the spade for the first shovelful as a gesture of reluctance. And it's customary to put the shovel back in the mound of earth, allowing the next person to complete that mitzvah from start to finish. Again, we'll invite you all after the family to participate. At this time, we're going to invite Morty's family forward to place earth in the grave. We invite anyone who would like to participate. You can come to either side of the grave. Blessed are you, Adonai, who is the universe, who is the judge of the truth. God gives life, and life returns to its source, and God's name be blessed forever. Before we conclude the service, I want to let you know that Morty's family will be receiving visitors this evening, beginning at 6 p.m. through 8:30 p.m. That'll be tonight, tomorrow night, and Wednesday night, 6 to 8:30 p.m. visitation with Minion prayer services at 7 p.m. each of those evenings at the Markowitz home, 7113 South Uriah. The information from the mortuary will have the address on it in Aurora. We ask you now to please rise as we join with Morty's family in reciting Mourner's Kaddish, and we'll conclude with with El Male. And then we'll invite the guests here to help escort the family from the grave. It's custom to do this as a gesture of our support of you in the days ahead. So we will form two rows facing one another and offer traditional words of consolation. But we'll begin now with Mourner's Kaddish.
המציאנו לך נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרתי המסירים, את נשמת מרדכי בן דוד בן מרים שהלך לעולמו וגן עדן די מנוחתו אנא בעל רחמים אז תראו בסתר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור ותזכור החיים את נשמתו אדוני נחלתו ינוח בשלום על משכבו ונאמר
O Male Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Morton Graver, known in our tradition as Mordechai ben David Miriam, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that Morton find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. I'd like to invite the guests now to please form two lines, and Kyle, you're going to do that here? Okay, so please follow directions here from the mortuary staff. And
for those who are able, please come up here and stand shoulder to shoulder facing each other, and the family will walk through.
we offer traditional words of comfort. As we say, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem, B'Toshar Avlei Tzion V'Yushalayim. May you find comfort in the days and years ahead, in the loving memory of Mort Graver, and among all who mourn of our people.
We're gonna cut off the lights on. Thank you, everybody. Send it this way.